That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I got too much things to do yet.
OScale Central Online.
Found the capture the cat, and that got good reflexes by the cat.
If you're not,
Like a cat.
let's mute everybody, please. We're getting a lot of background noise. Thank you. I'm David Vaughn, and as many of you can recite from prior programs, I'm going to introduce the program and the scale, recognizing that repeat players will already know about it. O-scale 2-rail is a model railroad scale of 1/4 inch to the foot, 1:48 proportions. It runs on 2-rail track, just like the prototype. O-scale 2-rail is almost 8 times the mass of HO. The scale has detail you can see, mass you can feel, and satisfying models you can build. Although nominally the same scale as Lionel, O-scale 2-rail trains are built to prototype proportions, operate in a prototype manner, and use 2-rail track. O-scale Central, which sponsors this program, is a nonprofit 501c3 tax-exempt membership organization whose mission it is to promote 2-rail O-scale and support modelers in the scale. We are National Model Railroad Association Special Interest Group, or SIG, for O-scale. We have an information-filled website at oscalecentral.com. If you're new to the scale or just O-scale curious, check out the website. There are introductory materials to give you an overview of the scale and help you connect with resources. O-scale Central publishes a quarterly journal and a monthly newsletter filled with interesting features about O-scale 2-rail products, modelers, layouts, clinics, and news. O-scale Central maintains an active outreach program to show our scale at train shows, RPM meets, and NMRA conventions. New initiatives that are underway include modular standards for O-scale and 2-rail layout documentation. We also sponsor this monthly online program using the Zoom platform. We bring in top manufacturers, importers, and newsmakers in the scale, present layout tours of quality O-scale 2-rail layouts, short clinics, and news you can use. And by the way, if you miss any program or know someone who should see it but didn't, the program each month is recorded and are made available on YouTube, either through our website or directly through YouTube. That website again is oscalecentral.com. And I'm pleased to report that we are now up to date on all back programs. We had fallen behind. And thanks to Nick Bulgarino's efforts, we are now completely up to date, and we are expecting to stay current. We will, at a point, be producing an all-time index of the different presentations that have been made. And at some point, we may try and do a highlights reel of some of the best PowerPoints and other presentations. As you all are aware, O-scale is a scale small in the number of active modelers compared to other scales. And below the radar, because of our small size, we generally do not enjoy a lot of manufacturing support, advertising, and visibility. But we are a tight-knit community, and we are supportive of each other and of new O-scale modelers, and O-scale Central and other organizations help keep us on the move. As we indicated, we provide these programs as a service to the scale. We open them to everybody. You need not be a member of O-scale Central in order to view the program or access the website. But we hope that while you understand and share our commitment to keep the O-Scale two-rail community informed, educated, and cohesive, that we are doing good things, and we hope that you will consider supporting us after you've enjoyed the program and see what the organization is up for. If you want to join, go to the website, find the membership section, and follow the prompt. Your dues, which are a steal at $24 for the basic membership. Can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. Your dues make this program and our other activities possible. And by the way, for people who are already members, this is renewal season, and we hope that you will take the time and re-up for next year. Thank you. All right. We have scheduled 3 segments on the program for today. And I want to simply run quickly through them. Our headliner, if you will, is Tony Custer. Tony is one of the best known people in the hobby. And while he is known for his HO scale nickel plate layout and the different articles about the layout and its operation, while he's known for his Trains of Thought column and his model railroad planning books that come out every year, Tony has always been an O-scaler, sometimes more closeted than others. You may remember that several years ago, Tony did an O-scale project layout for Model Railroader about Wingate, Indiana. And Tony now has a new railroad, which is not his traditional nickel plate, but is a Wabash branch line. And Tony is going to be our headliner to tell us about that using a PowerPoint presentation and narration. Our second segment today is going to be very truncated because Jay Escambia, who has taken over Sunset Third Rail following Scott Mann's retirement, was supposed to come on and give us a rundown on where the new Sunset Third Rail is and where it's going. I received from him today a note that his grandmother is in the hospital and he is in a position where he has to be the caregiver. And so he has asked for a rain check until the January program. I do have a short message that he left me and asked that it be played. Our third feature is going to be presented by Dan Mason. Dan is O-Scale Central's longtime legal advisor, and Dan is also the chairman of the board for the Atlanta Model Railroad Club, which has now moved into its $1 million purpose-built building and is in the process of putting the final touches on its layout design. It's really going to be spectacular, and he has asked not only to be able to give us a rundown on this and whatever inspiration it may spark for other model railroad clubs, but also to seek feedback from people here, recognizing you guys are at the core of O-Scale 2-Rail, and he wants to hear from you with questions or comments. So we're looking forward to seeing his presentation. The program, because the middle segment is mostly going to be deferred, is going to be a little shorter probably than some of our presentations. before we turn to Tony, simply let me let you know that some of the arrangements may look a little odd. That's because Nick Bulgarino is sitting in my library using the computer that I'm usually on, so he can be the host, and I can work remotely. I'm up in Boston right now on business. All right. I will simply flag the fact that we have several major shows that are coming up. I'm talking in particular about the March meet in Lombard, Illinois in the middle of March, and O-Scale West, which is being expanded and renovated in a new location at a new time. And rather than go through those, and rather than go through the upcoming O-Scale Central dates, I simply refer you to the coming events section of oscalecentral.com. Without further ado, then, I want to introduce Tony Custer. Most of you know him. Most of you know, at least because of what I have just told you, that he is an O-scaler, and I want to have him run through the really neat Wabash branch line layout that he is now constructing. Tony, welcome.
Thanks, David. Let's see what we can do here.
Oops. Nope.
David Woodhead, you probably weren't thinking you were going to be the star of the show, but there you are. You got to be ready all the time.
I'm going to try that a different way.
Sorry about that. Quite an entrance. Glad you did that. Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. If you can enlarge it, I think we're in business.
That should do it. Do you have it full screen?
Close. Close enough.
Okay. What we're going to talk about today is why I'm building an O-scale railroad, how I could manage to do that with an HO railroad that fills my basement already, and the motivation behind it, the practicality behind it, the liabilities behind it, etc. One of the biggest things that we'll talk about is the fact that if you have a large home layout, you're probably not going to be running it, you're going to be managing it. It's not something you can do just when you want to. It's going to be something that requires planning. You got to round up a crew. You got to schedule these things. When you do that, you have people coming from, I have them 2-3 hours away. You got to make it worth their while. So now you're talking about a 3 to 5 hour session that pretty much consumes a whole day. So a big layout is, like I said, you're a manager, a project manager. You're not playing trains at all. But instead of that, a two-town branch line could be operated by 1 or 2 people. You could do it whenever you feel like it. It doesn't require hours to set up and stage. No scheduling of crews or anything like that. It can be at your beck and call, and you're the guy, it's or gal. It doesn't have to be a cast of thousands. And it also kind of dispels the myth that O-scale is too expensive. This is my HO layout, and this is one of two classification yards, and it's fed by 4 staging yards. So, when you add in the fact that all these locomotives are sound equipped, most of the steam engines, or at least probably half of them, are brass. Tell me what's the expensive scale. I don't see where HO is particularly cheap when you tackle it on a large scale like I do. Now, the purpose of this HO layout was to recreate some history that I lived as a kid, but I only could see little pieces of it as a kid. I didn't have a car. My dad wasn't a rail fan. So I'm very familiar with what happened in my hometown of Cayuga, Indiana, but I didn't get to see the rest of this division in steam like I did at Cayuga. So I figured if I built a model railroad that showed Cayuga accurately and it brought back memories, which it did, that if I built other places I didn't see in steam equally accurately, I could essentially have a time machine. I could recreate history. So I don't mind not playing with the trains myself. I stand back and watch other people run them for me, and that's the objective of this railroad. But everybody assumes since I got this big railroad, I'm an expert in switching and all these other skill sets that go with model railroading, and I'm not. I don't do that on this railroad. You orchestrate a 3-way meet, stuff like that, make clever runaround moves and stuff. That's not what I do here. I'm a manager. So I thought it was time that I built a railroad that I could actually run myself. Now, we'll talk about Chemtron's Wabash Mogul, and this is the prototype for it, an F4 Mogul. Chemtron came out with these things, I don't know, it was late 50s, early 60s sometime, and I had enough brains to know that I couldn't assemble one of them, but I could certainly drool over it. And I didn't know anything about them. I just liked the engine, period. And that was the end of that. I mean, I couldn't afford to buy one that was built. I couldn't build one. So, okay, move on. But in later years, after my wife died from Alzheimer's in 2 years, a couple of months ago, 2 years and 2 months, the porch, it's a little 15 by 25-foot porch roughly, wasn't being used for anything. And it suddenly dawned on me that I could build a railroad out there if I kept the goals modest. And that's when this Wabash Mogul light bulb lit up again. So I started snooping around a little bit to find out where they ran. And they ran in Illinois, which was not far. Well, that's locked in between my home state of Iowa, where I was born, and Indiana, where I grew up for the most part. So I knew quite a bit about Illinois. It turns out these things ran in northwestern Illinois for the most part. And so you start digging, and the first thing you do when you're going to learn about something is join the Historical Society. And there's the Wabash Historical Society. And if you're going to start playing 20 questions with these guys, join as a sustaining member. Don't just start asking questions and don't pay your dues. But, join just like O-Scale Central. Sign up and get involved. So I did that. And that led me to a bunch of guys that were really interested. One of them was an old friend, Chet French, but I also met Rob Adams and Gary Rowe through the internet, and they become good friends. And a couple other friends, Jeff Hallowan and John Golden, got involved in this. So we got this team of consultants that really dug into this thing, and pretty soon we started honing this down to something that was modelable. And it turns out the 11th district, which was called the High Line, ran from the main line, Kansas City, Detroit main line at Bluffs, Illinois, northwest up to Keokuk, Iowa. And so I started focusing on that. And it turns out that it had most of the elements that were fun to model. You know, they poked along 12 miles an hour through cornfields and wheat fields, and you know, reminded me of a Howard Falk painting or something. You know, just and there is a painting that a gifted artist is just about finished with. Is going to sell prints of, not this image here, but it's just a neat railroad in every respect of the word. Why did it survive with steam into the mid 1950s when the Wabash dieselized in 1951? Why on earth do these ancient creaky little moguls hang on that long? Well, here's the reason right here. If you ran a Jeep out onto this bridge at Meredosia, Illinois, across the Illinois River, it would become a U-boat. It just plunk right through that bridge. They never did figure that one out. I mean, when they finally decided it was time to let those things go in 55, they managed to borrow a couple of 44 tonners from the Pennsy, but even those people didn't want to go venture out on that bridge, and they finally just tore the bridge down and worked it from both ends. But that power plant you can see there in the background is on the east side of the river, and there's a lot of coal came down the river, and so the moguls had a lot of work to do, and they had some work to do to take power up, take cars and loads up to all the way to Keokuk. So they were making a living all right, but it just became impractical to keep steam engines running, particularly these ancient creatures, much beyond 1955. So if it hadn't been for this bridge, those moguls would have been long gone before that, and I wouldn't have had anything to model. So my first thought was to maybe model that center swing span as a tribute to what kept the moguls alive. But you know, the bridge is 22 feet long in O scale. That's practically one wall of my room, and even that swing span is impractical. So that didn't happen. Here's a map of Illinois, and the blue circle over there on towards the left is the branches we're talking about. The line that angles to the northwest is the Bluffs to Keokuk line. That crook off to the southeast to the southwest of that line, that was long gone by 1955. So all that was left then was just that one line that goes from Bluffs northwest to Keokuk. And I've highlighted, you probably can't read it, but I've highlighted the town Bluffs and the town Mount Sterling, and those are the two towns that it turns out I modeled, and I'll tell you why about that in a minute. A lot of you would, if you dealt with Proto 48 at all, you probably run into Jay Criswell out in California. And Jay is in many ways the salvation of Proto 48 because he's not a Proto 48 modeler himself. He's an OW5 guy, but he has preserved a lot of the parts and services of Proto 48 that others have made available and don't do anymore. So Jay is really a really important individual in the Proto 48 world. And he located this mogul for me. It's still 5-foot gauge in this picture, but Jay not only proto 48'd it, but he wasn't happy with the tender bolsters and redid the trucks to make it better. And by the time I got it, it wasn't DCC and sound equipped yet, but it ran very well. And now that it's got DCC and sound in it, which of course DCC will improve the running characteristics of any locomotive, it just runs like a Swiss watch. So Jay did a really good job. And then David Vaughn found a second mogul for me that had been freelanced a little bit by centering the headlight on the smoke box front, and it had a freelance paint scheme, and of course all that had to go. But Jay has got all the Chemtron parts. I think, in fact, he can supply a complete kit. So a fellow named Mike Bearden out in Wisconsin has been busy rebuilding that into, this is 573. He's rebuilding the other one into 587. You got to cherry pick your moguls. There's 5 of them were left on that line in the 50s, and 3 of them had little oddities about them that make them hard to model. One of them, for example, had the rivets going sideways on the tender instead of vertically, and just little things like that that make it a little bit tough to model. But 573 and 587 are a little easier to model, so those are the 2 that I'm dealing with. Fortunately, they ran the standard Wabash steel caboose on the line, the one with the rectangular cupola rather than the streamlined cupola. And by good fortune, Overland imported just a few of those. And Rob Adams was going to model this line, but he changed his mind. He's modeling a piece of Ann Arbor up in Michigan. So he had a couple of those left that I bought from him. And 2700 is one of them, and that's correct for this line. So once in a while you get really lucky, and I got really lucky. If you notice, it looks a lot like a Santa Fe caboose. And in fact, on the 3-window side, you could convert a brass or plastic Santa Fe caboose into this without much trouble. You got to get rid of the toolbox that's hanging down between the trucks. There's some grab iron differences up on the roof, and then you're good to go. The other side, the windows aren't right, but on most railroads are linear and don't double back on themselves, so just keep the caboose with the bad side facing away from you and you'll be okay. Here's the track plan, and you can see at the upper right is Bluffs. The blue line is the Wabash main line. To the right is Decatur, Illinois, and on up to Detroit. To the left is Kansas City, and this is where a Decatur local comes into town with a GP7 that they acquired in 1951, which puts kind of a time hack as to what year I model at one end, 1951, not earlier than that. And it comes in on that blue line. Of course, there's a wall there, so it's already entered town, and it leaves cars for Bluffs and for the switch, what's called the switch local, to take up the line. Now, the other town, the guys at the consulting team told me that probably Mount Sterling was the town I wanted to model. So I went out there a couple times and drove up and down the line and decided they were right. But then Chet French said, hey, the switch local ran from Bluffs up to Mount Sterling, and then it went back to Bluffs. It didn't continue on past Mount Sterling. Oh, well, now that changed the game real fast to just absolutely make sure that we modeled Mount Sterling. So in addition to the switch local, there was a train number 3 that left Bluffs in the morning and around through Mount Sterling and went all the way to Keokuk. And then it turned and it came back as number 12 and went to Bluffs and tied up. So there were 3 trains on the railroad, the switch local, number 3, number 12. So my plan is to start the day with number 12, having already arrived in Mount Sterling and is waiting on the main line for the switch local. The Wabash Decatur local on the main line comes into town, sets out his cars for the switch local. A mogul comes out of the roundhouse, gets his train together, and he goes up to Mount Sterling, meets number 12. And if there's 2 guys, then number 12 leaves. If there's 1 guy, you run the switch local into the passing track and then take number 12 on into Bluffs and then go back to Mount Sterling and work Mount Sterling and then go back to Bluffs and work number 12 and then go back to Mount Sterling and bring the switch local back into town and then get all the cars those 2 guys brought into Bluffs together and make a Decatur local together, get it together, and then the Decatur local runs either to Decatur or into that mirror at the wall, whichever comes first. And there's mirrors on both walls at the end to greatly extend the apparent length of the run. I think there's pictures that show that. Now, industry-wise, there's quite a bit going on there. There's some interesting facets that I've tried to work into this thing. In the upper left, the upper right, to keep the aisle narrow enough or the benchwork narrow enough that I can reach back to Standard Oil and Pine Oil. I only have a half depot there. I just got it 2 days ago from Randy LaFramboise, a good friend of mine up in New Hampshire, or Vermont, I'm sorry. And by building only half of it, you get to see inside the depot. So you see the operator and people waiting for the train and stuff like that. So that's kind of fun. And you got a lot of industry there. They had a big grain elevator. They had a stock chute. They had a stockyard, but of course, that's out in the aisle. You got cinders and sand and coal for the engine terminal. So those are industries that work. The 2 oil dealers. So there's things to do in Bluffs, plus that Decatur local coming in and giving you stuff to switch. So there's quite a bit of work to do there. And then you come out of town and go across the low trestle we'll talk about, and you come into Mount Sterling, and Frederick Brick and Tile was there. There were 3 elevators, Mount Sterling elevator, Alford elevator, and another one we just discovered behind the depot. And there was Boydston Lumber. There was a coal bins there. There was a little coal retail yard. There was an unloading dock. You could say there was a team track as well. There was McClelland, like Alan McClelland, ironically, stockyards, and there were a couple of oil dealers there. So there is quite a bit of work to do in Mount Sterling. And if you noticed, except for the brickyard, the Wabash grouped all of their industries on one siding. That's very efficient, except that if you got to pull a car out of the middle of all that that's loaded or unloaded, and the rest of them got to go back, you make a grand pull and a grand shove, and away you go. So now you might notice right under the word Mount Sterling, Illinois, there's a water tower, W, and the siding bulges out around that We'll talk about that in a little bit too. Here's a topo map. You can see why the town of Bluffs is called Bluffs and the town of Mount Sterling might be called Mount Sterling. It's kind of audacious for anybody in the state of Illinois to call anything Mount, but you can see that compared to the river bottom area, the flats, where Meredosia is, that the towns of Bluffs and Mount Sterling are dealing with much more interesting topography than Meredosia, which is in a floodplain. So the Illinois River, over the ages, has done its job of cutting out a pretty big swath there. You don't get these flatlands just magically. The rivers have got to do their work over the millions of years. And you can see where that bridge was under the M of Meredosia. That's where they justified the two locals going, or the two the double-headed moguls going across that bridge. So that is the piece that I've modeled there. Now, Bridge 283 is nothing to write home about, no big deal at all. But I couldn't afford a big deal at all. So we'll talk about Bridge 283 in a minute. But that's where it is right at the left edge of the floodplain. Now, the case for Bluffs is that it's got an interchange with the Wabash. We'll talk about the interchange in a minute. Roundhouse turntable, coal loader, a couple of water columns, which you could animate, which had some interest, with like a tortoise motor. Big, tall concrete grain elevator, assuming it was built in the 1950s, which we think it was. A couple of petroleum dealers in a stockyard. So there's quite a bit going on there. This is on my railroad. This is the nickel plate C&EI interchange at Cayuga. If you notice, there's two tracks right concentric to each other. The one that serves the grain elevator only generates maybe 2 or 3 or 4 loads of grain a day, and I had to build that great big grain elevator. The one that the C&EI Jeep is on generates many more cars because that's the interchange track. So, and it
Excuse
could
me,
take,
Tony,
Yep.
I think you've got the size of the screen flipped. So we're now seeing a very small picture of what you're describing and a large picture of one of the folks who's tuned in on the call. Is there a way to flip it?
Let's see if we can escape out of this and come back into it. Did that help?
Not yet.
David, the issue may be local to you.
Oh, yeah.
Everything looks fine on this end unless
Okay.
anybody else is reporting it.
All right. Thank you. Sorry
Well,
about that.
Yeah, it actually it did look fine to me, in spite of the comment, but maybe I should I go out and come back in? I can leave and try to come back in.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
it looks
good.
good to you, yeah.
It does.
All right, we'll turn it back over to Tony. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm really
Okay.
enjoying this. Really liking it, by the way. Thanks.
At any rate, on an interchange track, you can have a Hershey bar car, gold bullion car, aquarium car, anything you want, and any quantity you want. And since this is staged with a live crew, you can swap cars during the session. So interchange tracks are really, really important. We call them a universal industry. So when you're planning your model railroad, the very first thing you want to look for is a way to include an interchange track of some kind or another. Animation is getting to be more and more important. At Bluffs, there were two water columns. One was a Poge water column, which is the standard one you see almost everywhere. And the other one was this one, the Sheffield style. And this is right by the water, by the turntable over there to the right. You can see a kind of a white structure sticking out there. Well, the turntable pit is right by that. So we're down there by the roundhouse is where we are. And you can see on the main line all those single sheath Wabash boxcars. So you get a hint as to what kind of equipment to run. Now, there's a Wabash steam engine on the left, so this is obviously an earlier era than I'm modeling. Now, the other town, Mount Sterling, what's going for it is the endpoint is switch locals turn. We don't know which way the engine was facing, whether it went headed out and back to Bluffs or the other way around, doesn't matter. Boydston Lumber, Fredericks Bricks and Tile. Looks like they did a lot of tile there. My dad ran a brickyard, so I know about that. A coal dealer. I ran into the guy whose mother or somebody ran that, so I'm gonna get some information. I have a wood water tower that's animated, spout goes up and down. Two large grain elevators, two petroleum dealers, may only model one, a stockyard, McClellan, and the depot still exists in the park. Now that's good news and bad news. We'll talk about that. This water tower, which has been modified to more closely resemble a Wabash water tower, is a Broadway limited animated water tower. Now, I modified it. If you look carefully at the spout, you'll see weights that go up and down on that. Broadway doesn't have that, but it's not hard to make that modification. The water level scale on the left side of the tank is cut from a photograph of a Wabash water scale. And so, you know, again, when you tell the guys, when you get to Mount Sterling, get done switching, that's a small tank, fill it with water. If they back up to the water tower and, you know, you tell them to count to 20 or something, you feel like an idiot doing that. But if you push a button and the water spout comes down and you can hear water rushing in, and then the spout creaks and goes back up. Now that's kind of fun, you know, and it's not like a water tower that's got bubbly water going up a tube or something, you know. It's entirely realistic. So I very much, I had the same thing on my HO road. I'm sure there's a mix of standard oath scale and Proto 48 people in our group today and on YouTube later. Why did I bother with Proto 48? Well, I'm still asking that question. My thinking was that if you're modeling a branch line, you can't use heavy rail or mainline rail. You got to get down to code 100 or code 83, and you can't buy any 5-foot gauge or 4-foot 8.5 gauge flex track in that light rail. So you're going to have to hand lay the track, and there's no turnouts in that kind of size either. So as long as you're going to hand lay the rail, why not make the gauge right? Well, I'm rethinking that, but because it gets expensive to have steam engine Proto 48. Diesels are easy. You just get the replacement wheel sets from Northwest Shirt Line, drop them in, and you're in business. But steam engines are a pain. It's expensive, and there's long lead time to get it done. So you got to think that one through pretty carefully. If your layout is high off the floor, mine is not because of some physical restrictions near a fireplace. But if you can get it up around 58 inches or so, you can't really see that gauge error because you just can't get a bead on the width of the gauge. The same thing for ON30 versus ON3. You just you can't see that gauge error. So that's another thing in favor of just going with what's called OW5 and not bothering with Proto 48. Flip side, Katie now makes a real nice 700 series scale coupler, and there is reasonable commercial and support group help, and particularly when you have cars like hoppers and tank cars where you can see the wheels. In HO, they're kind of obvious. In O scale, the big fat RP25s are really obvious. So that's another reason to give it a shot. But it is finicky. One little misalignment and it's on the ground. But you got to be careful with Proto 48. There's two groups of Proto 48. One group is pretty much model builders, and the other group is layout builders. And I'm on the layout builder side. A lot of Proto 48ers never get a layout built because they're so busy getting every absolute piece of boxcar perfectly right. And they just never have time to get the layout built. My rationale is that we're all freelancing to some degree. I mean, we got electric motors in our steam engines and diesels, so hey, and we're not all Jack Burgesses who models the Yosemite Valley not only in 1939 but in August 1939. So I mean, you know, it is worth making a timeline. We'll talk about, but if you slavishly adhere to it, you're going to be in trouble, and I'll show you why. And it's mainly because progress is our most important product. You want to get these things done, you know. The key points of the timeline on my case was that by 1939, they were down to a couple of trains, one each way, plus maybe the switch local. We're not real sure when that ran. The key grain elevator in Mount Sterling, I discovered to my horror after I'd already commissioned a fella that does these, Kevin Tully, does beautiful modeling. I discovered it burned down in 1949. So if I were a real honest Proto 48 modeler, when I got that grain elevator from Kevin, I would have set it on fire. But no. There was an oval steel coal dock standing right in the middle of the yard that would have made switching Bluff's yard impossible. It would have been right in our way. But fortunately, the Wabash, knowing that, had a derailment in 1951 and wiped that coal dock out. And they replaced it with a Red Devil coal loader over by the roundhouse, saving us a great deal of grief. The Red Devil coal, or the Ogle coal dock that Overland brought in, is much larger than the one the Wabash used there in Bluff, so it had been a scratch filling project, and it'd get knocked over every single op session. There's no mainline brass or plastic Wabash steam engines, so that's a big problem. Jeep 7s were delivered in 1951, so that, again, we're kind of, 1951 is kind of the earliest date. Number 587 got a clear vision tender in 1953, which kind of puts a kibosh to going anywhere beyond 1953, and then they dieselized in 55. So that is a real hard stop there. I talked about the scope of railroads. This is how we dispatch the third subdivision dispatcher has got his own office. He talks only to the operators on a real authentic telephone system. That's an actual nickel plate scissors phone. The real dispatcher would have had like a microphone hanging down, but I had this and I wanted to use it. Not on the 11th district. It'll be Simon Says, just we'll go out and make do on our own. It's much different scope. Branch line track. It's not big stone ballast, 132-pound rail. It's almost invisible in spots. Very different thing. You can see the cornfield over at the side, almost encroaching on the truck. Weeds everywhere. Very different kind of railroading. The key structures in Bluffs are the wood depot. Wabash painted their depots gray with black doors. The depot, I called out the things, the labels there, if you can see them. The depot and water tower at lower right, and then there were stockyards. The concrete grain elevator was about the middle of the yard. Coal and sand cinders near the roundhouse. The 2L companies to the east of the roundhouse, and the junction with the main line off to the west, upper left. Here is the GP7 that Mike Bearden painted for me. Just got it back 2 days ago. It's a Wabash, Atlas O model with a custom chassis that Jay Criswell built for me. This is the half depot that I was telling you about because it's going to sit right at the edge of the railroad. And you can see at the lower right what the interior looks like. It needs desk chair and an operator and a stove and all kinds of detail, but that's the way it looks right now. Doors need to be painted black. But that'll be kind of fun because I can wire in the sounds of a telegraph playing and stuff like that. I've got a tape of that. The key structures in Bluffs were the roundhouse. You see there 6 stalls. By the time I'm modeling, the Wabash had realized I didn't have room for 6 stalls, and they knocked 3 of them down, so it was only 3 stalls. You can see the turntable's kind of a through girder rather than a deck girder, and we discovered an HO 90-foot girder bridge. Looks like it can be kit bashed into those girders. So I'll take a Walther's 110-foot HO turntable and strip the deck and put an O-scale track on it, and then put these girders up against it. And I think it'll work out really well. In the lower left there, you can see the Red Devil coal loader that replaced that Ogle coal dock, and you can see a sand tower. Haven't figured out how we're going to build those yet, but we'll get there. I was going to show a picture of the deck girder bridge, but I didn't get it done in time. Beyond the turntable, you can see Pine Oil Company and Standard Oil, the 2 industries. You can see a prototype of the Wabash GP7s, and you can see an overview at the upper right of the Bluffs Yard, the depot, the concrete grain elevator. Those steel silos were not there in early 50s, so I don't have to worry about those. The concrete silo is still in Bluffs, and here's a close-up at the custom painter, what the Jeep looked like. He did a nice job. The blue, when the Jeeps were new, the blue should look black almost, the experts tell me, and so he got the color right. This is the other town, Mount Sterling, and you can see how that siding to the bottom or south wanders all over the place. But we didn't have a clue where the water tower was. You can see the depot, you can see the Alfred elevator, and that house, like two-story structure down the track there, that's actually the Mount Sterling grain elevator. Over on the left was a power plant. On the right was a power plant, but it's long gone by the time I'm modeling. So we assumed the water tower was on the depot side, just off to the left there. But you know what assuming does. So Perry Squire, my neighbor, built the depot, and I laid this main line and the passing siding right next to it, and thought I was home free with Mount Sterling. And the water tower, like I said, was going to go between the industry track and the main line, the passing track, and everything was wonderful. And then Gary Rowe came up with this photograph that shot everything to pieces. You notice the water tower is very clearly between the main line and the siding on the south side of the track. But it's got other details that are interesting. You can see a two-holer outhouse, and you can see a Martin style grain silo and a truck unloading shed that we didn't know anything about. So suddenly I was busy. I had to tear out that passing track and move it. I had to add to the bench work, balloon the bench work out. And it's kind of a pain when you have something all done and or moving on, and then you have to go back and tear it out and start over. But that's prototype modeling. If you don't want to do that, freelance. Some other key structures at the top photo at the upper right, you can see the McClellan stockyards were covered, and at the upper left, you can see the oil dealers. They're gone now, but there's a couple of the buildings are still there. You can see some residences and things that support, for example, in the A in Vintage, just to the right of the A, you can see a barn-like structure that probably had hay for the stockyards. In the lower left of that picture, near the word post, is a looks like they dumped gravel or something for a concrete mix plant. That wasn't there. The only photo we found of Boydson lumber is this one, and it was modernized, and it's long gone, so I couldn't use it as even a backdrop photo. Modeling crops, very important in the Midwest. If you notice in the 50s and beyond, this is probably the late 50s, early 60s, the soybean fields are very neatly arranged in rows. That's because you got to drive a tractor and a cultivator between the rows to hold the weeds out of there. You didn't do it chemically. So when you're doing beans, the easiest way to do it is with big pipe cleaners and spray them with spray glue or hairspray and coat them with leaf flakes, and you can get pretty good rows of soybeans. The cornfield is JTT corn. You can get no scale, and then I just use mats for the wheat field. I don't know what I'd do in O-scale SHO. This is HO, but you could do this same thing in O-scale with JTT corn. It's very expensive, so don't model the whole cornfield. Just model part of it, and then have the parts that are already harvested knocked down, and save yourself some money. Progress report. I couldn't start on it till I got a mini split to air condition and heat the porch, which was done in the summer of 2024. So just over a year and a half ago, the first bench work was laid. You can see that I had to cover up the fireplaces out there, but I got another one in the living room. By August 28th, the bench work was all the way around the room in both directions. So made quick progress. The lighting is Barina T5 LED lighting. Those are not replacement tubes for fluorescent fixtures. They replace the entire fixture. They weigh nothing, so you just use little clips to hold them up, and you can plug them end to end, or you can plug in cords to separate them, and you can plug 10 2-footers or 5 4-footers together on one circuit. And if you look in the lower right corner, you'll see how dark it was. And then in the upper left side of the screen, you can see how nicely they light up the room. I'm using them on the nickel plate now too. Handling track isn't that hard. You don't want to spike every tie at first, only every 7th tie, and put down tie plates. It's not that hard to do. Coat the back of the tie plates with that scenic cement that Woodland Scenics puts out to hold figures up, and coat the back of this real lightly with that so the tie plates don't skid around, and make a little plastic gauge to center the tie plates on the ties, and then only spike down every 7th tie or you'll go crazy. And then later you can come back and spike the rest of them. The picture on the left shows what it looks like when you're doing it. I use Homo Salt milled road bed. It's nice to spike into. If you went into my basement right now, it looks pretty much like the picture on the right. Almost all the tracks laid, all the ties are stained, all the ballast is in. So it looks better than what this picture shows. But I still have some spiking to do. This is how it looks today, in fact. Getting there, you can see the mirror in the background. It's not been mounted firmly yet, so it's not perfectly square, but you can see how it extends the railroad. You know, the Tom Sawyer trick of getting somebody to paint his fence for him. Well, my friend Angela Sutton, one of my crew members, is working on our civil engineering part of her Master Model Railroaders award. And I found that out, and I said, okay, come on out, and I'll have your hand lay a turnout. So I got a turnout laid, and she got that part of her MMR done. This photograph by Phil Hastings always intrigued me. This is online, I'm modeling. I don't know where this bridge is, and it's a little longer than I had room for, but I had to replicate this scene. So I took bridge 283, and this is the exact scale model of it. The bridge bents are spaced weirdly. I have no idea why they're spaced like that, unless there was bedrock underneath available to them. It's weird spacing, but nonetheless, this is exactly the way it was. So I'm now able to see these things that I didn't see in real life. You can see here the drawing shows this bench spacing 9 foot, 16 foot, 7 foot, with 16 feet on both ends. So it really did have that weird spacing. No guardrails either. This is how the bridge fits in. I had to put it on a curve instead of a tangent, and that's where that weird spacing came to my rescue, because it let me segment the bents and get a curve in there without any real issues. And that's the way the scene looks. It's more developed now than this picture shows, but you can see the fascia and the valance. The picture at the top is Phil Hastings again. This is the way they ran number 12 and number 3. That would be number 3 going west past the Mount Sterling Depot, and I took time to make a mock-up of the depot and the grain elevator. It's a good thing I did, because the mock-up is the size of the depot and the park, but it's been shortened twice over the years, and it just didn't look right when I made the mock-up. So we lengthened it when the model was built, and it looks much better. And as a result of that, we had the first steam-powered train into Mount Sterling in 71 years. So it was a good feeling to get there from here. It's not a smooth process building a model railroad, as most of you know. You can see this turnout is about 2 days old. I had it custom built by Bill McConnell of Whole Scale Turnouts. I had built a turnout there, and it was derailing the mogul every time I went through it. And I figured if I had Bill custom build it, he would resolve the problem, and it did. There was some little kink I had in there that I couldn't find, and by putting Bill's turnout in there, it resolved it. So by throwing a little money at it, I got the problem solved. I had to modify his turnout a little bit, but you know, again, 2 steps forward, 1 back. You don't just sail through this, particularly in Proto 48. The reason, as I told you earlier, second model railroad is this is what it takes to run the nickel plate, and all it takes to run my railroad is me. I'd like to thank these guys. I mentioned most of them already. I've mentioned all of them, in fact. And special thanks to Chemtron, without whom none of this would have been possible. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Tony. That's a great presentation of a great theme and a great layout. So thank you very much. Are there questions for Tony? If it was sufficiently thorough, it may not leave room for questions, but thank you.
Yep.
You can stop screen sharing now. And
Hey, David, this is Jay.
Yeah.
I have a question for Tony, and it's Tony, the second Wabash Mogul that I felt ran better than the first one. Have you done an appraisal on that yet?
An appraisal on it?
Well, or an evaluation on the second one. Does it run better than the first one, or the same? What do you think?
Well, there was so many, as you remember, there were so many loose parts that I sent it directly to the guy who painted that GP7,
Right.
and he's putting it back together. So I didn't get a chance to run it, Jay.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Thank you.
by the way, I know that we have a chat function for those of you who may not be familiar with it. You have a row of icons on the lower part of your screen, and one of them says chat. If you click on that, on the right side of your screen will appear comments and questions. And so it may be useful to click on that and bring up chat. It's got some questions and some comments, some of which may be useful for Tony to comment on.
I'm looking at them now. I don't see anything that I need to answer. So.
Okay.
Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you all. Anything else for Tony? Appreciate the presentation. It is an amazing amount of work to put one of these things, these PowerPoints together and make them flow and make sense. Obviously, Tony starts with a background in telling good stories, but I assure you that it is work, and we really appreciate Tony and the other guys that put these programs together. for us. Thank you.
Hey,
All right.
excuse me, I have a question. Because your layout is in a porch, and I see you mentioned you have a heater in there. Are you experiencing problems with expansion and contraction? And what's the temperature range where you live?
Well, I live in northwestern New Jersey, which is up in the Highlands, and we have a tremendous amount of both temperature and humidity variation, and I don't leave that mini split on. It'd be too expensive. And I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so far so good. I mean, I'm worried about rust. I'm worried about contraction and expansion. But so far, we're not operating yet. So the real fine points of Proto 48 may not have raised their ugly head yet. So we'll see. Ask me next year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I live in Toronto. It's extremely cold here right now, like unusually cold. And I'm just
Same here.
imagining what you're going through there. Yeah.
It's 19 degrees here right now.
Oh, yeah.
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit. Yeah, here it's like -7, but that's centigrade. I can't translate from you very easily, but it's cold.
By the way, Tony mentioned Jay Criswell, and Jay asked a question. Jay Criswell is one of the true, generally unsung heroes of O-Scale, and he has been doing so many projects with special skills and special thought, and he is rightofway.com. Is that the way to reach you?
It's right away at right-o-way.us.
Well, check out the stuff that he has, those tie plates and 100 other parts. He's always thinking of good ways and good projects. So Jay was on the program here one time, perhaps a year and a half or so ago, and as I said, he's one of the really good guys in the scale. Thank you.
Thank you, David, but the website is a total mess. Scott Thornton, who's on the call with us, has volunteered to help create a new website, and he's been waiting for at least a couple of years now for me to do my portion. Luckily, he's a patient fellow.
Well, you keep getting drafted to do other people's projects for you, so it's understandable. Anyway, thank you very much, Jay, and thanks for helping Tony. This is a great project and a great presentation. Thank you. Let's move along then, if we can. Life is a concession of the fact that we got to move along. Sorry. For our second segment, as I indicated at the outset, Jay Escamilla was supposed to be on the program and has had to postpone until next month. I simply want to flag a couple of things. Not only is Sunset Third Rail a long-time, reliable supplier of engines and passenger trains in O-Scale, they're still bringing new projects in. Scott Mann succeeded his father, Mort, as being in charge of Sunset Third Rail. And you'll recall that we've had Scott on the program several times to talk about his projects and how he sees things. And we've always enjoyed a really good interview with him. He has taken his retirement and passed Sunset Third Rail to Jay Escamilla. And Jay promises great things, continuation of the projects that Scott was working on and a bunch of new projects on his own. I do want to flag for you a couple of things. One is that Jay's website is called Third and Townsend Models.com. And it's all one word. It's all run together, no spaces, no punctuation, no hyphen. And take a look at his website if you would. One of the things that you can do is sign up for what he calls Catalog Club, which means that you sign up and he will send you the next 2 catalogs by mail. And that becomes important because some of the reservation deadlines for upcoming projects that Jay is developing are coming up soon. And his catalog is supposed to be released on December 26th. If you sign up for the club, you'll get them right away by mail, in addition to whatever announcements he may put up on the website. So he wanted me to pass that along to you. Take a look at it. Perhaps you'll have some questions or comments when Jay does come on in January. Our third segment, and I am looking here to see whether Dan Mason is on, and I see that he is. The Atlanta area has a very active O-scale 2-rail community. The centerpiece on that is the Atlanta Model Railroad Club. The club has a new, if I had a million, building and a state-of-the-art layout under development. Dan Mason, who has been O-Scale Central's longtime legal consultant, is the chairman of the board of the Atlanta Club. And he has come on to bring us up to date as to what's going on in Atlanta, both with the building and with the layout. I suspect he'll also want to plug O-Scale South, which is one of the really neat mid-sized O-Scale only shows. And unless you got anything in addition to that you want to start with, Dan, I invite you to bring us up to date on Atlanta.
Thank you, David. Fellow O-Scalers, tonight, let me see if I can get us through some of the technology right now and share a screen, go right into it with what I've got to do. The Railroad Model Club of Atlanta has existed since 1937. We're one of the oldest in the United States. And 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, we sold the building that we owned in downtown Atlanta that the permanent layout was built in, that was finished, started in 1937 and finished in 1951. That was a great historical layout and a building, but we chose to, it's time to move on and get a bigger building and look to the future with technology regarding layout and the electronics and so on like that. So we finally was able to find a building in the northern area, north of Atlanta. Could not afford one, even what we got out of the building downtown. And a town called Ball Ground, Georgia. It's in the northwest community, north of Atlanta, a very up-and-coming area. And our particular building is located in Cherokee County, Georgia. So we started this project, signed the contract in May of 2024. And previous to that, we had looked for over a year for a building, trying to find one we could afford, was not intending to build a building, understanding the downs and outs that you deal with when you're building, and came to a decision because we couldn't afford one that maybe we could get one built. That was May of 24. Here it is December of 25, and we're still working on it. But here's what we've accomplished. To give you an idea right here, if you can see this building, this is one of the entrances to the building. It is a 60 by 120 foot metal prefabricated, pre-engineered building. We did some changes to the building to reinforce structurally the building based upon an engineer that we hired to make sure that we were doing everything we could to have a good structural building, and made some changes internally to the building and some externally. But this project started out, and we finally got laid ground with it, and ran into problems with the city and the county over their new requirements for getting permits. Very frustrating for us. And but this year we've accomplished quite a bit. We at least got the building. It's erected, let's put it that way, at this point in time. And let me go back here just a minute to our building. And it is now in this particular condition right now. It's externally done, except for some more paving around it and parking lot detailed. But inside is where we're working on it now, and just got the city after another 4 or 5 months delays on getting the plans. We end up having to hire a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, and an architect. And our builder, who is a Georgia Tech engineer himself, had never experienced this kind of a problem before, but the cities, counties are now making you, even as minor as our interior of the building is, to go through and have all the heating and HVAC and plumbing and electrical lighting, etc., detailed with all of the energy consumption and so on like that. Additionally, they make you have affidavits from all the contractors and subcontractors. It is a major obstacle to building anything, even in a small town like Ball Ground. But we're making our way through it. I know they like us; they just don't like progress, I think, is probably what the way to put it. But this building here, this is the end, and this end view is the view of where our tenant will be housed. We have 1,800 square feet of this building, 7,200 square foot building that will be housing a tenant. Our business plan, because we've been in a building that we own downtown Atlanta and went through many years of ups and downs, it was decided that there's no way that we're going to maintain this building with anywhere from 21 to maybe as high as 50 members in the future, if you do not get income coming in. So the 1,800 square foot is going to help us produce about $2,200 a month. We have a lady under contract that is going to have a stained glass window type business that is looking forward to getting in there. And we're building the building out, her part of it. And it will be separate from the club. The club will use 5,400 square feet with a mezzanine on the second floor that's about 1,000 square feet. And so anybody interested in the future of trying to get a club together and have a building and buying a building, it's one thing to own a building and then sell it and get the money to build it, but then you got to maintain it, and you got to maintain the club and the overhead, the cost, the taxes. And these are very expensive things. And that's why we don't see too many clubs. Here again, Atlanta is one of the few that owned its building. And therefore we were able to do it up to this point. But the tenancy issue and maintaining the cost and being able to pay that is something that is always going to be a concern. And I remember the tough years in Atlanta was we had everybody from a $500 a month individual, if we could get him, and down to $100 a month. Sometimes we had to get, that's all we could get out of him to pay to help us offset the cost down there. I hope that we don't have that kind of trouble here. But anyways, the building is about 75% done at this point in time, and I'm going to take you back to a couple of photographs here, and then we'll get into our proposed layout, which I have of interest to asking some of the people here. Our tenant side is going up nicely. This is a firewall right here that is dividing the 5,400 square feet to her 1,800 square feet. And that will help us give her the privacy as a tenant, of course, and able to do her business. The side of the building over here is the front of our club, will be the front. And you come up the hill right here, up the hill, and then we have another ingress, egress over on this side. But we will be neighbors for her. She will have it totally without a doorway to the club. We did build a false doorway that we covered up and can knock down or take down in case we ever become able enough to take care of the whole building from that standpoint. That would be a futuristic type of thing that we could do. Let's see here. I'm sorry that I'm not more prepared, but I threw these pictures together instead of trying to read them out. Another picture of the interior with the tenant. This is the side of a building. We added this is real brick. It's not imitation, but we did put a little bit for support and to add something to the looks of the building. We are building in an area that has not been built on as fresh virgin soil, and woods are around us, nice trees, beautiful area that we intend to use. We have a trailer that we haul around our module layout, and we will park it in this area here, which will be gravelled and landscaped in the future. To give you an idea about that, we will continue with our module going out and doing shows at times to develop folks to join us. Again, another picture of the tenancy down there. Here's a picture of the side of our building. We also have a 12-foot entrance. And building a layout, as you well know, you got to have a way to get in there and get a lot of wood in there and a lot of materials. So we wanted to do that. And also, if we ever have to sell the building, then these industrial buildings are valuable, but you need to have the access to for large stores for materials, loading and unloading. So it will give us that ability to do that during the construction stage. And then, of course, it will maintain it. This will be our major entry for the public and for members in here at this time. Maybe this stuff may bore you a little bit, but just give you an idea that we worked hard to get this. This was an unrealistic because of the engineers for the city. They end up requiring us to put the retention pond right here. We had the retention pond down here where the water flows, and our engineer said it's a perfect place for the water to come down the hill and flow in, but they wanted it over here. So we're hoping that's going to work. Supposedly it's a bunker, a concrete bunker is what it is. And we lost that battle. We argued, we fought over it for some of that 8 months that we delayed, and finally decided just to do it and gave up on it. And we'll have this is a fenced property eventually. This picture doesn't show it, but other pictures may show that it is fenced up in the new ones. Yeah, here's our fence around it at this point here, and it doesn't do too bad once you get the fence up there. The construction, we're on a site that's going to be an industrial park. The builder, our engineer, is also going to have a business and being our neighbors to the right of us, south of us. And then over here, there's another neighbor with a 10,000 square foot building. We went into a situation like this because light industrial in Georgia will allow type of clubs, social clubs, and things like that to operate. So we passed the requirement for the zoning. And also, there's more space that we could have in a building like this and less cost than building a brick and mortar building, of course, for the cost of it. This just shows you the land around the building that is going to be open. Over on this side, which is the west side, there's an L&N main line that comes from northern Georgia, North Georgia, and that is going to be an important attraction for us. And we hope to model it and have a layout based upon the state of Georgia, a lot of Southern Railway trains in our area, and we want to do that to be the first one as far as our state goes. Now, any questions at this point? Because I'm not going to get into any further or do anything further on the building itself. But if you have any questions or comments or any suggestions, please let us know. Please let me know. You can ask me questions now.
Dan, is the club and the people who've been involved in the leadership willing to serve as a resource for other groups, other clubs that may be looking at new projects, new real estate, new layouts?
Absolutely. And I would tell you that there needs to be one because we brought the O-scale community together in a sense that we talked to New York, Oklahoma City's building a new layout, and of course, as a building that they've just bought in the last few years. And we've gone to every major one and talked to them about cost economics and what we're going to be facing. So another resource, especially even if you're going to do this yourself, and some of you may have property that you're going to put these metal buildings and could build a nice layout. The size of the layout, which gives this picture here, shows you is inside of our area is 5,400 square feet that we're going to build on. This is this firewall between the tenant right here, and this second floor that's going up is a mezzanine. That mezzanine will house, because of 501c3, which is what we're seeking, we're a 501c4 right now, is going to be for educational and museum issue if we are able to get through that process. And it will have a shop up here. It will have a paint booth. It will have an open room for meetings with Zoom potential. And the center will begin over here, will be a library, and then the office, a small office down at this end. So we're going to have all of our requirements that we need to establish ourselves as in order to promote as a 501c3 in order to get that that tax exemption. Okay, we're going to have that on the second floor. There will be a staircase that goes up here, and we're also going to have the staircase where, as we get older, means to get up and down the stairs for the fellows and ladies that are older. We need it right now for some of our members, and we're thinking that's what we got to do. This door right here is what I told you was it's a dummy door at this point, but when we cover that up in the future, if we need the space, we will do that and use that. Any other questions? Good question, David, about the resource. We need it in our, whether you're building a home layout and you're going to build one in a large building, or you're going to even buy a building or try to find a building, we'd be glad to help out as much as we can.
Tell us about the layout.
Folks, the layout is, we went into the committee side of it. The building is one thing, and you got enough headaches with that. So we chose to get totally different people looking at the layout. And all clubs do not have the same experience, individuals do not, and skills. And this is where you have issues that start coming up when you've got a group of people and everybody's got different railroads that they like. Of course, we're committed to the South, and that railroad is the railroads are going to be Southern L&N, Central of Georgia, and two or three other ones. So we've got that worked out, but getting the actual layout and what can go in this thing, I think we've come up with an idea. Our planning committee has. I don't know that there is one of them on tonight, but if they are, they may want to add something to this part of the presentation. The fellows have come up with a great idea, I think, and let me see if I can pull up the information on this now. Let's just go with lower level to start off with. And if you're up under the mezzanine, this is the mezzanine that will be built on top of this. This is a helix right here. This thing is going to be 84 to 86 radius. Okay, we've got about a 5-inch up second floor. This will be a mushroom, a folded mushroom type of layout. And what you're looking at here is the lower level. These are bathrooms over here. And then this is the staircase going up to the mezzanine level. Okay. Every bit of the property downstairs there will be aisles where you see things like this. Up here is the front door. Excuse me, this is the front door on this side. And looking at the layout when you first walk in, this will be a yard operational. The layout will be an operational layout. 2 tiers, mushroom, like I said, folded over mushroom. And then the aisles we will have are minimum of 5 feet through here and all the way around the layout. Okay. And so the mezzanine you can see down onto the layout, but we don't at this time because we're going to have electronics and automation that we're not going to need crow's nest or dispatcher necessarily up here. We can, and we will have the ability up in the mezzanine if we have to, but right now we don't expect to have that at this point. So the lower level, just to give you a quick shot of this, this is in the drafting stages, folks. This isn't something that's not, we got issues that we're trying to work through all the time on this. And so just to give you an idea where we're at on it, though, and let me go back here just a minute. Let's see. Our upper level is going to be like a second tier up. And the best way to explain that is let me give you an idea of what that would be. Let's see here. Let me give you an idea. We went ahead and built a module to represent what this will be on the first floor. You're looking at the proposed module operation that we will use to go all the way around the layout and be built out of this type of material and module. And this is 52 inches high, height right here. backdrop is here. If you will just think of this continuing on with the curves all the way around the layout. And what we have here is a 32-inch upgrade to where there's 3 steps that a member, not the public, the public will be up here at all times in the front of this portion of it. But the members, this will be sealed off and they will go up on steps and be able to go up here and have a second tier level where they will be able to operate, whether the public is there or whether they're doing it for themselves or whatever like that. So the idea is we're going to use module material and adapt it. It will be stringers or L girder to try to authenticate some type of elevations that we will have, especially in northern Georgia, and go up and down from that standpoint. But this is a concept that we're proposing right now to get this thing where we could build it and with cost and not be just building a layout from sawing everything in the world. If we do this, it'll go faster and hopefully less expensive because the material is cut up and it's going to be like you're doing this and getting the benefit if it goes together a lot faster from that standpoint. And anyways, here's a little presentation on that.
Oh, demonstration there, everybody. All right, Morris, talk about it. Hold on. And that was
Let's go to the last meeting on, and this is not high they want to track, and it's 2 inches to the rail bed. So we're down here about 50 inches.
Let me, I couldn't get that straightened out, so let's just go on through with the next one for time's sake. Now, we did this on fiberboard. We had a fellow that's an architect, engineer and architect, that did a white fiberboard depiction of this layout. Here's the entrance. And remember, we're in a box, is what the building is. So when you go through the door here, there's people, scale people there that would be looking at an operational point of the layout. It's going to be a magnificent type of operation there. And here is going up to the mezzanine. So what you've got up here is the mezzanine opened up to let you look down in there. And then this will, how the layout will proceed with the aisles going through it.
Hey, Dan, is there a place where people can view the models, and is there a point, perhaps you, who can be the recipient of the suggestions and questions that you are looking for? If there are specific questions you're looking for feedback on, tell us, but then we need a way to follow up on it in terms of both looking more at the layout and being able to respond to the points you're raising.
Okay. I tell you what, David, if I understand you right, at the end, I'll just ask if there are questions, but if anybody has any questions or comments as we go through it, I mean, we're not that many people here, just ask the question, okay? And
Okay.
I am not the expert on the layout portion because I'm the one running the building mainly as the lead on that and as the project engineer. But our layout committee fellows have got a lot of the answers that I may not have. I've been briefed on it. We've talked about it, and we've got this down where we feel like we're moving forward with it. And that's where we're at. But if you have any questions, ask me about it. David mentioned where models are going to be displayed in an area like this, and this is a side view looking down at it too. This over here may be an area, if it's not an industrial area, that we may have where you can see things. What we don't want to do is clutter this up And when you've got people milling through here, we wanted a professional looking presentation. So we want to try to keep it as clean as we can. And the model, we will have, I guess you would say, display cases and signage, etc., all over the walls. You know, and you got 22 foot to the center. These are 16 feet, these walls are right here. So we're going to have a lot of room to put stuff. The upstairs or the mezzanine is not going to be something that people go up and down it from that standpoint, but it is an area that we will have members, and then when we have educational classes for that too. But right now, what we wanted was something clean and neat, and where we don't have tools and stuff thrown all over the place. There will be room up under the layout, some parts of it, but the idea was to get as neat and clean as we can. Let's see here. Now, this is the second floor, the mushroom side of it, looking down here. And you have to just envision, this is hard concept. It's not an easy concept to look at. All I can tell you is that we will try to do a better job down the road to give you a better idea if any of you are still confused about how this will look. And the track plan is in the process. Track plan looks like you would just draw it according to what you have here, but the detail in this and showing the curves, we do have a minimum of 84 radius on the outside of this because we want to be able to operate with everything that we know of that can operate in no scale, and to give even visitors the ability, if they've got a big boy or whatever, just because we're Southern Railway type of layout here, we still want others to run whatever they have. We want our members to be able to do what they want to do. And so we're hoping to have that kind of a radius in this thing. At least that's what the engineers tell me. That's all I know. Now, any questions about either the building or the layout itself? Anybody want to come and help us?
Bring a hammer.
How do you fund it?
Well, here's the deal. Here's the nuts and bolts of that. We sold the building and we found the building that we needed to build, at least to get it the size that we wanted to. So we took the gross sum that we sold the building for and said this is designated as the building fund, and we can't touch that. And you know, the building fund is like $1 million that we will spend basically in this building, and then the rest of it we've got labeled for the layout, and hopefully the layout, you know, but I'm hearing figures like from Oklahoma City. I mean, it's astronomical between the cost of track and switches and everything like that. So I'm hoping we've got a good starting point. The truth of it is, by the time we hold back a certain amount of money for our needs in the future, when we really need it, just like you would in your home budgeting, we're not going to probably have enough to do both tiers, the bottom tier and the top tier at this point. We could get a good benefactor. Anything can happen, but we may not be able to afford that, but we're going to attempt it at this point in time. So you've got to have a good budget, and you got to stick with it, and you got to have just don't get carried away with all the details inside that building. The building is a stripped down. It's going to have 2 bathrooms, nice bathrooms, and it's going to have heating and air inside of it, and good lighting. The lighting is going to be it's really LED all over it, and it's very nice. And then we're going to put a epoxy over the floor, simple, easy to clean, keep clean. And that's really going to be it, the inside of the building. There's nothing more.
Hey,
All-
Dave, if people come down to O Scale South, I bet you'd give them a tour.
Absolutely.
Why don't you
And
tell us about O Scale South and when that's going to be and a little bit about it? It's a good show.
O Scale South, some of you may have not heard about it or know of it. We're in our 11th year, and it's a small regional meet. We don't intend to compete with, either Chicago, O Scale West, and so on like that. We're for guys and ladies down south that cannot get up to Chicago, don't want to go, but they get to see brass and nice engines down here, and that's what we want to introduce that to them. We have it February the 21st this year, 2026. And we hope that you guys ever want to come down during the winter. We have great winters down here. Come down and see us, and then we're going to hopefully have the building with an open house at that time. I can't guarantee it the way things have been dragging, but we will have at least a way to go through the building and see what we've done if you're interested in doing that. And that is, again, February the 21st. Our vendors, any table holders, contact me. We will have ads in O-Scale Resource and several other magazines and information from that standpoint. But welcome you to that and to come down and see the building. Now, no more questions. How about some comments about that layout? I know I see people on here that's built nice layouts very well. Any suggestions? Don't think we know it all. We don't. We like to hear from people to get everything we can to educate us. Yes. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if you guys are going to publish the track plan anywhere so we could take a closer look at it.
We will. Is that Nick?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I know you got David Bond there in front of your name, but I thought that was you. We do intend to. It's kind of confidential at this point because you're at the point where these guys have invested all this time. They're trying to get things worked out more where they can feel more comfortable. So we're going to give them a little bit more time, but that is exactly what we're going to do and say, look at this. Maybe David would invite us again. I'd say somewhere by February, March, that we should have this tied down, detailed with a terrific, and we may have there's a fellow that one of the guys is a Pfeiffer that is done he's going to do an animated track plan. And we've actually hired him to do that because I think our members deserve. I'm one of the members, and I want them to be able to know and understand the sophistication of the layout, what they're getting into, and how much this thing is going to cost them. Because again, somebody's got to pay for this, and the club will have so much to pay for. But down the road, we're going to have to work hard to get money, income, or donations from that standpoint in order to sustain this. And any contributions or help from anybody too. So. I hope that answers your question, Nick.
Sure does. Thanks.
Yes.
Hey, Dan, this is Joe.
Yep.
Just wanted to comment on that from the layout construction standpoint. Once I know I mentioned this to you. Once we get the design finalized or close to finalized, we can start doing an estimate on what everything's going to cost.
Right.
So it's really hard to get a good cost idea based on preliminary plans.
All right. Joe is our vice president, and he's also on the layout building committee. So they're going to work on the numbers. Once the planning committee turns it over to him, they're going to take that and then work with the numbers and the realistic, take a realistic view of it from that standpoint. Thank you, Joe, for being here.
Sure. You're welcome. I did have a question to the group about track. So we've been kind of tossed around the idea there between Atlas or micro engineering. I just kind of wanted to see, really just from an availability standpoint and cost, which one is the more preferable way to go.
I would throw my hand up for Atlas. It's a little bit more flexible, easier to shape, in my opinion.
Hey,
This is
Dan,
Eric Peterson. I'd go the other way.
is there
I'd go-
a follow-up email, website, any way to communicate if people here have follow-up questions or comments?
Definitely, David. This is rather long, but it's the name of the website is railroadmodelclubofatlanta.com. Railroad Model Club of Atlanta. I unfortunately got to write that out, type it out, of Atlanta.com. And you can reach me at Dan at Railroad Model Club of Atlanta. Again, Railroad Model Club of Atlanta. That was developed, that name, in 1937. We've stayed with it. We've stayed with the history, so that's a little long, but that's what we are. But anytime you got a question or anything, or you're going to be down here and you just want to come by to see a building, we're working out of another building right now with a small module layout that we operate 2 times a month right now to maintain our uh, civility, I guess you'd say, trying to keep together as a club. You have to keep things moving. So we're doing that and paying a lot of money per month for that one. So we're like tenants right now. We're paying $2,200 a month to stay in a building that is one less than 1/4 of what we are going to build right now. These buildings are very expensive to rent them. If you rent them like that, of course, we never envisioned having to rent one. We had to build one, and hopefully, we will get ours within budget of the money that we've got set aside. That's the big thing you always worry about. We got a contract. We spent months getting that together, dealing with it. It's a hassle, folks. I'm not going to tell you that doing a big project like this, make sure you get with the city and the county ahead of time and go through everything to get them to it because they are outrageous, the rules and the requirements on everything like this. So, any other comments? Yes, Eric. Yes, Eric.
Yeah. First of all, on Joe's question about flex track, I've had really good luck with microengineering. I use 2 blocks of wood with grooves for the rail, and that makes it pretty easy to curve. And obviously, the detail with spikes and tie plates is better than the Atlas. So that's one thing. And towards the end, David, I'd like to give a little update from O-Scale Central website point of view.
Okay.
Thank you.
One second on this. Now, I've got a hard stop at 6 o'clock, but I'm going to lean on Nick Bolino to keep the ball rolling enough to complete the program. But before we go back to that, and I want to give Eric an opportunity to give us an update. There may be other things that we need to include before we adjourn, but I want to do just a couple of things. Number one, O-Scale Central, like all organizations like this, runs on volunteers. We have been blessed to have a group of people who like each other, work well together, and have really put in the time. We have had recent elections, and I want to thank 2 fellows whose terms have expired and who are somewhat stepping back, Alice Lappas and Eric Peterson. And Eric's going to give you an update. He is not nearly as inactive as his termination from a board of directors position might suggest. But we also want to welcome 2 new directors. One of them is Daniel Rabel. Daniel has been on the program the last couple of times. He is a dynamite 3D designer and printer. And I'll also want to introduce Tyler Cook. And Tyler, wave your hand. There's Tyler, and Tyler is new to the board, and I'd like you to just say about like 2 minutes of background, who you are and where you fit in on this.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I'm excited to be part of the board of directors for O-Scale Central. I know a lot of people haven't heard my name or don't know who I am, and those who do know, I can be a little obsessive about certain things as well. I started out in model raritying at 3 years old when I got my first model train layout, and in more recent years got into O-scaling and specifically Proto 48. By happenstance, I purchased a Mullet River Sioux Line caboose that was built by the late Ray Grosser of Kentucky from Jim Cantor in Indianapolis. And he was, and I had the 1/8 scale caboose also built by Ray. And I was going to get an HO model to match it, and got on eBay, and the O scale one that Ray had built that had been featured in several magazines was also available for sale. And I purchased it from Jim, and he messaged me and said, "Hey, just come over and pick it up." Well, I had never met Jim until I moved an hour away from him, but I grew up less than a mile from his house, and went over and left that night with, I think, 12 Proto 48 models, much more than the one I had intended. And so I'm in the planning stages right now of building a Sioux Line, Upper Peninsula, Michigan based Proto 48 railroad between the cities of St. Ignace and Sault Ste. Marie, and modeling the rail ferry in St. Ignace as well, and operations of that. And then in the rest of my world, I do 1/8 scale live steam as well, which is a great summertime hobby. But when there's a foot of snow on the ground, it's rather difficult to operate with that. And so O scale becomes my main focus during the winters.
Well, welcome to the board, and we're looking forward to great things. Tyler is a terrific modeler and a very energetic guy and very diligent. So we are happy to have both Daniel and him. Nick, I got to sign off. I've got a family commitment that involves grandchildren, and as you may know from your own experience, grandchildren generally have priority. But I do want to thank Tony. I want to thank Dan Mason, and I want to plug next month. I think it's January 16th, whatever the Sunday is there. We will have another entertaining program. And Eric wanted to give a quick update. There may be some follow-up for Dan Mason. And as I indicated, I want to give people the opportunity, if there are any manufacturers out there or people who are service providers, to put a quick plug in for anything new that's coming up. And also a quick show and tell. If anybody on the program has some O-scale equipment that they want to sell or are looking for, by all means, give us a quick blurb and we can then sign off. I apologize. I'm going to have to take off, but I appreciate Nick taking over and finishing up the program. Thank you very much.
All right. No problem. To clarify David's comment there, I am only 29, about to turn 30. I have experience with grandchildren tangentially. All right, Eric, if you would like to take over from here.
Well, I'm not going to take over, but I just got a few comments and news releases from O-Scale Central. I think if anybody has tried to renew their O-Scale membership since the 1st of December, we've had some problems with that, and we've made some updates. We've added back the capability to pay with a credit card without being a PayPal member. And a second reminder will be going out very soon to those that haven't renewed yet. We also, of course, would like to have many more new members, and the website is set up for that as well, just oscalecentral.com. The reminder will include, the website now includes additional questions about your interests, about the member interests. And we've also recently added a directory of members that's only available to other members, but you can search on that directory in a number of fields and find that guy that lives just down the street that you don't know about, or across your state that you don't know about. So that's why there's those questions there, and it gives us some profile information about our membership as well. So I think that's the breaking news right now, and we would like everybody to renew that's been a member in the past, and we'd like everybody to join that has an interest in O-Scale 2 Rail. We're continuing to do a lot of things, and you can see that our leadership is continuing to evolve and have good transitions. So thank you, Nick.
No problem. If everybody remembers the old Union adage, everybody bring one will double in size. I think if you do that 13 times, you get the entire world population to be O-scalers. All right, we will move on now. First off, thank you, Eric, for the update. With the remaining people here, where we've moved on to the good and welfare section of the program today. So if anybody wants to begin that section, talking about any projects you have, locomotives you want to sell that you're looking for, this is the social hour.
Or if anyone has any questions for me as the new guy to the board of directors, you can ask them and I'll try to be truthful in my answers.
This is being recorded, just to remind you. Whoop, I see a question from Gary.
And that was an anti-Semitic attack, obviously. I must say, in Syria also, we had an attack in Syria, and we had 3 great patriots.
I don't think that's O-scale related necessarily. All right, everybody. Well, since there are no takers here, thank you, everybody, for coming on the program today. Again, thank you to Tony and to Dan for presenting. And if anybody has any questions by way of follow-up, feel free to reach out to us, anybody on the board at O-Scale Central. And we look forward to seeing you guys in January. Happy New Year's, happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year.